We've been obviously talking a lot about third downs. I guess you have to.
Yeah, we have.
What kind of conclusions have you drawn? Obviously staying out of third and long helps. I don't know. How do you feel like you're progressing in that regard?
Yeah, well, we have been watching the last couple of days, talked about it, at length today with the quarterbacks. I think that's probably the biggest issue, obviously staying out of third down and long. I think, it's been like 60% in the last 5 games have been 3rd and 7 pluses. Obviously, it's, you're going to get exotic defense. You're going to get, teams that do multiple things, and sometimes it's just dropping everybody deep and trying to make you throw the ball underneath. But, Greyson and I have talked. He's got to throw more completions. It's a big part of it. And then just the execution in general hasn't been real clean. A couple of plays last week, we got a inside zone run where, Keith almost comes through there. We don't do a great job getting up to the second level, but it's been a point of emphasis. And, again, it starts with 1st and 2nd down. But, again, we know we need to be able to convert third downs to get more opportunities to stay on the field.
Yes, it seems a little late now, but obviously Coach Spurrier stepping down like that. What was your surprised to see that happen?
Yeah, I think so. He must be antsy about playing golf. But again, it was awesome seeing him. Before the game, after the game, when we played him. But I just wish him and Jerry nothing but the best. And I don't think he's going anywhere. I think he's just he'll be around for sure. He's probably out on the course somewhere right now, and he'll be out there, I'm sure, whenever he gets a chance. So I wish him nothing but the best.
Did you feel Greyson really kind of settled in that second half last week, and that's something he could build on, especially with some of the deep balls he was able to hit?
Yeah, I think so. Again, I think Greyson, obviously, one of the things that jumps out at us is his ability to throw the deep ball. Even a couple that he missed, they were right close. Had a chance, but I think he felt good. He moved well in the pocket again. Again, I think he can use that as momentum. I think he kind of got into a groove a little bit in that game, I think that he's had a good week of practice this week. So, again, a guy that, we just want to try to keep him consistent, get him off to good starts. And, again, I was proud of the way he performed in the second half.
How much different is it having number 1 at the tailback position instead of 27? You change everything you're doing, or you do the same things with a different guy?
No, obviously, haven't experienced it that much, not having Nick around. But, again, the schemes don't really change. Obviously, Sony's a little bit of a different player for sure. Does some things differently. But, again, I think, we're going to be who we are and do what we do, and expect for him to make his plays like he did last week, the long runs and things like that. And then, quite honestly, Keith came in, did a nice job for us as well. And then guys like Brendan Douglas that's played winning football here. We expect those guys to be ready to go, and we're going to need them to certainly perform at a high level for us.
What's key for making the right call on third downs? When you go back and review, do you second guess a lot yourself, or not really?
Sure. I'm always going to be critical of myself and the plan and the call. There's certainly things that I've called that the defense has just had a better answer. And then, every once in a while you call a screen on 3rd and 9 that you think, man, this play's got no chance, and it goes for 25 yards against Tennessee, and you're like, Again, I think the thing we're trying to do is do the things we do well. We've looked at that. Again, talking with Greyson, the importance of him saying, okay, hey, it's 3rd down. Sometimes when you're going no huddle and you're just rattling plays and things like that, he's got to actually know, hey, this is 3rd down. This is a pretty important play. But try to focus on doing the things we do well. Getting the guys in the right spots is more important than necessarily the play, that we're trying to call.
When you watch the games, it seems like the pass blocking is really good, and the run blocking, a lot of times there's not that push. Is that a direct reflection of other teams stacking the box, or is there something else?
Probably a little bit of both. I think obviously there's been some times where we haven't really gotten as much movement as we'd like to. Certainly there's teams that are loading the box, like Tennessee was firing their linebackers and things like that. The big emphasis this week with the offensive linemen is, again, we do a great job getting our hats and our targets right, but it's that strain of, hey, there's always a stalemate in the point of attack when you're blocking, and just being able to strain and move those guys. We call it getting displacement. Again, I think a lot of it's just, pad level. And again, big thing is you got, offensive football, you got to get into a rhythm. I mean, you can't go 3 and out, which we've done too many times. And we started the game slow last week. But those guys will get better as the series progresses, is our opinion. And again, we are certainly getting some heavy boxes.
Talking to Coach Rick a minute ago, he was talking about the third and longs and how there were too many of them. What do you think's kind of contributing to that, and the early downs and you guys having trouble getting enough yards to make it manageable?
Yeah, last week we had a couple situations that came up that jumped to mind where we had penalties. We had a false start penalty down in the red zone. I think we were 3rd and 3, and it backed us up. We had another one that was probably 3rd and 7 where we had a false start. So those are things you can't do. I mean, when you're in a third down and manageable, you can't set yourself back. But again, we got to get ahead of the sticks. We got to win first down. Last week had a couple negative runs. Guys, ball gets bounced outside and kind of you lose some yards. That certainly hurts. And when we are in second down and long, Greyson needs to understand, hey, we're looking to get a completion. I think that's a big part of it. So runs and completions, or efficient runs and completions on first and second down, normally sets you up for third down and manageable. And we certainly can't shoot ourselves in the foot with pre-snap penalties. Penalties are going to happen. The holdings and stuff like that's going to happen. That's the nature of the game. But it's the pre-snap stuff that kind of hurts.
Do you think Sony is capable, not capable, but in terms of his workload versus what Chubb was used to, is he equipped for that kind of?
I think so. Again, I'm not going to compare the two. They're very different. But, what he did in that game for us, not certainly expecting to have to go and do that was pretty amazing, I thought. Certainly we'll take care of him during the course of the week, and we'll give him, some spots. But, obviously we're going to be at our best when he's in there. And I think, he's excited about that opportunity. Certainly not happy with how it's kind of come about, but I think he's excited about that opportunity and ready to attack it.
Can you talk about the role of the tight end that's changed a little bit? I think people were looking for Jim to put up some larger numbers, kind of build off of last season, but it seems like they're working a lot on the blocking. Has the role changed, or defense is taking away that option?
No, actually, Jeb and I had a great talk the other day. We were talking about just some stuff with him, and again, I think it's nothing where again we're not trying to get him involved. I think they've done a really good job in the run game. Again, probably some things that we need to try to make sure we're targeting him. But for the most part, it goes back to during the course of the week, the consistency of he and Greyson or he and Jay Rome being on the same page is something that we've worked on and talked about. But we're going to be best when those guys are involved. We want to spread the ball around to everybody. We want to throw the ball to tight ends and receivers. And again, I think that was a good thing that came out of last game is the ball didn't just go to Malcolm. They were trying to take away Malcolm. They were matching number 5 on Malcolm, and you saw Reggie break out with a big performance. So again, we'll be at our best when everybody's included or everybody's involved in the passing game.
Coach, one of the things I wanted to ask you about Sony, he was kind of more of a change of pace back when Nick was back there, and you had to figure when he came in the game, teams were worried about, hey, one's in the game, they might throw it to him.
Right.
Now that he's in there all the time, do you think that you guys can maybe use him in a way that's going to make him a little bit more effective now that he's going to be there constantly and you can't really worry about one thing over the other?
Absolutely. I think that certainly helps. When he's in there, a lot of times you're right. When he goes in, it's kind of a red flag, especially when they were both in the game at the same time. Nick was in the one spot and Sony was outside. Actually, late in the game against Tennessee, we didn't hit it, we missed it, but we lined him up at receiver, brought him across in motion. And it was one of those situations where we had a match on a corner, and he ran a really good route. But again, he's a dynamic weapon, and so again, having him in there more consistently certainly makes the defense kind of not forget about him. They'll never forget about him, but relax a little bit because it's not like, hey, here comes number 1 off the sideline.
How do you feel Terry Godwin's done so far this season, and is he filling a role in the offense like you thought he would?
I think obviously, Terry's got a ton of ability. Again, I think he made some nice plays for us late in that game. I talked about this, I think, a week or so ago with Terry. It's just consistency. I think that the sky's the limit with him. I think the beautiful thing about Terry is how well he kind of sees the field and understands the game of football, which makes it kind of easy for him to go out there and move in different spots. We barely missed him on the one inside fade that we had, but he's had some opportunities, made some plays, and then of course, we've missed him at times. But again, us moving forward, talking about spreading the ball around, he'd be a big part of that as well.
How close are those young receivers behind it? The Jason Stanley, Michael Chigbu, How close are those guys to being able to kind of crack the lineup and start seeing a few more snaps?
Again, I think, obviously we're seeing more consistency from those guys. I think each day gets a little bit better. What's happened the last couple of weeks is they've made some strides and taken a step or two back. A guy that's jumped out the last couple of days, to be honest with you, is Shaqiri Wilson. Made a lot of plays. Obviously, it's a lot going on for those kids. There's a lot of stuff they're learning. They're doing special teams, things like that. But again, I think they're more comfortable now, and we're seeing less of the mental mistakes that maybe we saw in week 1 or 2. We're seeing less of those, which gives you more confidence to be able to put them in there. And certainly as the plays increase and things like that, we need to get those guys involved and get them in early so we can save some of those guys' legs for late in the game, guys like Malcolm and Reggie and people like that.
Last question.
Talked about Sony's versatility and how sometimes you were able to line him up at receiver. Now that he's the feature back to you, how do you keep him fresh to where he's going to be running the ball a lot, but there's some plays where you do want to line him up at receiver?
Yeah, well, I think obviously it starts with during the course of the week. We got to be smart with what we do with him during the course of the week as part of it. We certainly will roll the other backs through. I think that's something that we've believed in regardless of who the back is. The issue now is just trying to find enough time to get him all the work of the routes, that he would get. But another guy that just really understands the game of football. And, you can tell him something one time and he knows it. And, again, that's one of the guys that Greyson can go and throw a route to one time and they just kind of have it. So we'll give him breaks at the right time. If a drive's going, we'll try to give him a break more around midfield than in the red zone. You want him kind of ready to go when you get down in the red zone, things like that. But when he's not in there, we trust that those other guys will, like I said, go in there and perform well for us.
Thank you.
All right. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Coach.